episode of Art House to Fart House with Kate and
Jamie.
And this week, Jamie was the one who picked the topic. What was your topic again, Jamie?
I am the one to blame this week. It's best friends or worst enemy. So I tried to squeeze a little bit of everything in my list. My first choice is a corker from 1987. It's from Walter Hill. One of the manliest of male filmmakers ever. He can't hide it. It's Extreme Prejudice. It is one of my favorite 80s movies, and it is still to this day not been transferred on a really good DVD or a really good Blu-ray. It's got basically 3 movies worth of gunfights in it. Nick Nolte plays a Texas Ranger who's just pissed off about a lot of stuff. And Powers Booth plays his old friend who is awesomely named Cash Bailey, who is now a drug runner, drug lord, more like it. Both of them, Powers Booth and Nick Nolte, both of their faces look like they were like carved out of a tree stump. There's a love interest, but it doesn't even matter. Who are we kidding? Nick Nolte and Powers Booth are in love with each other. The only way they can express their love is through sweat, staring, and bullets. Also, it's got an 80s cast of action movie favorites. Everyone is like riddled with bullets by the end of it. Some dead, some alive, but everybody's getting shot. It also stars Rip Torn, and so if Rip Torn is the most reasonable member of the cast, you know that's saying something.
Oh, wow. I don't know that I could quite reach that level.
Starting off on top.
My approach to this was I was deliberately trying to avoid buddy movies, which is kind of a default that one could go to, with the exception of my first pick, which is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid from 1969, directed by George Roy Hill. This movie was really groundbreaking. Well, first of all, I have memories of this from like seeing it in the drive-in when I was a kid. I definitely have like that nostalgia connection to it. But it was actually really groundbreaking in that it redefined Westerns. Up to that point, Westerns had really been defined by John Wayne and his approach to the hero. And this one just blew that all out of the water, which was extremely controversial. It was also groundbreaking in that, I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely an early movie in which they were deliberately anachronistic by introducing the song Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, on Your Head, My Head, Your Head.
Raindrops keep falling on my head.
And also with some of the dialogue and interaction, they were deliberately taking themselves out of the time in which the period in which it was set and making it more contemporary, which again raised a lot of eyebrows and created a lot of consternation. But then we go on to, whether deliberately or not, influence movies like Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, or movies like Knight's Tale, which are also very deliberately anachronistic. My verdict between best friends and worst enemies are that this was an existential journey that kept the two main characters always in that balance point between best friends and worst enemies.
My next choice is, I started off with more of an action movie, and this one's a more serious film, more focused on the friendship between the two lead characters. So I picked Every Which Way But Loose, starring Clint Eastwood and an orangutan. I wish he was a talking orangutan. Deep down, I always want to say a talking orangutan, but he just talks to me. It was a huge hit in 1978, like maybe the biggest, but I don't think so, maybe number 2 or number 3, huge hit. So, you know, the math on that is Clint plus monkey equals money. Clint plays Philo Beddoe, who is a kind of a loser. Everybody in this movie is basically kind of a loser, you know, like, I mean, define loser, but, you know, they're not at the top of their games, basically. He spends the entire second half of the movie stalking a woman who wants nothing to do with him. He just doesn't understand why she wants nothing to do with him, but then he finds out, and so he's the worse for wear. And I actually hold Clyde responsible, his monkey, his orangutan, because, you know, all throughout the movie, he never says anything to Clint about his behavior, to stop it, that it's bad for him. And also, you know, I know what it's like to own a monkey, and getting your monkey laid is pretty important, but breaking into a zoo is still breaking and entering. It's also got a great countrypolitan soundtrack, which is kind of mainstream late 70s country. It's really good. It's very interesting. And it also stars Ruth Gordon as a sassy octogenarian.
Stop that, you baboon. No respect, no privacy.
My second pick, I chose to stay in the world of nostalgia with the 2002 movie Me Without You, which was directed by Sandra Goldbacher. This movie is an evolution of a friendship between two girls who become friends, or they're neighbors. They become friends when they're 12, and the movie continues to follow them up until contemporary time, which would make them roughly about 40. Sustaining a relationship over a long period of time is difficult no matter what, but it's especially difficult if that relationship begins when you're younger and you're really just discovering who you are and evolving and changing. And this movie really nails that whole roller coaster ride of a relationship. Plus, it has an amazing soundtrack. So, my verdict on this one is sometimes divorcing your best friend is the only way for the relationship to survive.
You can divorce your friends?
You can.
Most of my relationships begin and end on a roller coaster. But literally. My next choice is from 1942. It's directed by Mark Sandrich. It's maybe a curveball compared to other movies I've chosen, but it's Holiday Inn, one of the most popular holiday movies ever made. It's also got one of the worst scenes ever in an amazing movie. So if you don't know anything about it, look it up, but that's it. That's all I'm saying. It's one of the finest holiday movies that is filled with shitty behavior. Shitty behavior from almost everybody. Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire basically just try to screw each other over while including other people in their lies and machinations. Fred Astaire being worse, but Bing Crosby lies to a couple people and he lies to the girl he supposedly loves, so that makes him a terrible person too. It's a 40s movie, so there's misunderstandings. Who would have known? And apparently everybody in the 40s really enjoyed singing and dancing. For some reason, it seems like there was something else weird going on that decade that, like, you know, they just focused on that. It's like Home Alone, but instead of, like, you know, having burglars to feel good about around the holidays really hurting, you just have two people who may be friends, but they sure aren't acting like it. So happy holidays, everybody.
My third choice is Your Sister's Sister from our beloved Lynn Shelton from 2011. This film sets up a friendship triangle between best friends Jack and Iris and half-sisters slash close friends Iris and Hannah. It also creates a triangle between platonic love, romantic love, and desire, which all leads to, as you can imagine, laughter and tears. I would consider this movie mumblecore at its best, so if you're a mumblecore lover, this movie is for you. Fun fact, a Scarecrow alum, Jason Dodson, is in the opening sequence where there is a party scene. So very nostalgic for us in a whole set of different ways. My verdict about this is that sometimes relationships don't fit into expected tropes, and you have to break out of that best-worst dichotomy in order to find a way forward.
My next choice is from 1988, and it's directed by Frank Henenlotter, and it's Brain Damage. Frank Henenlotter directed Basket Case and Frankenhooker, and somehow Brain Damage managed to be the least seedy, and that's only because it wasn't filmed in a Times Square flop house. You know, these people are a little more reasonable, they have apartments, and they live their lives. But now they live their lives with a thousands and thousands of years old brain parasite who's about a foot long. He's very phallic looking. He's voiced by John Zachary, horror show host. So he's got a great voice. He's like a song and dance man, it sounds like. And he talks you into some really terrible behavior. Like a lot of friends do, he injects his serum into your spinal column. He calls it the juice. And it makes you do stuff. And some of the stuff that he likes to do, he likes to go out and see the nightlife. He also likes to kill random strangers and eat their brains. And you're going to help him with that because you're so hopped up on brain juice. And his name is Elmer. And when I was a kid, I thought his name was Elmer. So I always made the joke about tickle me Elmer. But his name is Elmer. So now I'm making that joke. Tickle me Elmer with your brain juice.
So you know what's really funny is that I'm sitting here reading my notes, and then at the same time hearing you talking about getting injected with brain juice, and wow.
We all need it.
What an interesting
I could use sometimes
in my own brain.
Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, man, I wish I had time for that second cup of brain juice. Please inject it into my spinal column.
Hi.
with that in mind, my fourth choice is a French movie from 2014 called Girlhood, directed by Céline Sciamma. This amazing movie opens up with an incredible scene of this group of young women playing American football. So at that point, you know it's just going to be great. She then goes into this incredible tracking shot, one of the best that I've seen in a really long time, where it follows the team as they're returning back into the projects where they live. And that is the way in which we're introduced into the girls and the community itself. The main character that we are following, our protagonist, falls in with an all-girl gang, and that then becomes the catalyst in which she delves into darker parts of who she is, as well as finding some of her deeper inner strength. My verdict on this is that sometimes it's good to be part of a group, but never lose sight of who you are. Deep thoughts.
Can I take a minute?
You know, just think about all of that with your brain juice that's just been pumped into you.
My emotions are like I'm on top of them now. My last choice is My Bodyguard from 1980, directed by Tony Bill, written by a genre grindhouse favorite named Alan Ormsby, who wrote Paul Schrader's Cat People. He also wrote Bob Clark's Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and more importantly, he is the crazy, annoying star of that movie. So it stars Chris Makepeace as kind of a rich kid who gets shipped off to public school and just immediately runs afoul of Matt Dillon and his bathroom bully crew. What is the deal with junior high and high school bullies always picking on people in the bathroom? I mean, bathroom time should be a time of relaxation and just focus, not terror that you're going to lose your milk money or your sandwich money. And Matt Dillon had no choice but to be the villain in this. He's wearing a bandana and a sleeveless t-shirt. The main character finds a bodyguard as somebody he didn't expect, someone who he didn't expect to be friends with. They become very close, they become very good friends, and they always learn that there is always a bigger bully, regardless of your bodyguard. It also stars Ruth Gordon once again as, you guessed it, a sassy octogenarian. It's got great Chicago locations, and it's like one of the last movies before the 80s started, so it's got a realistic feel to it. The kids in school feel like they're in school. They don't feel like they're right out of Central casting off of Beverly Hills 90210. My Bodyguard 1980, check it out.
How long was Ruth Gordon an octogenarian?
Long,
what, like
long,
20, 30
long
years?
time, long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Just checking. My final pick is the Trip series, which is actually television shows, but they made movies for the American market. There are 4 of them. It began in 2010 and ended in 2020. They take us on food tours through the north of England, Italy, Spain, and then ending in Greece, starring Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan playing fictionalized versions of themselves. If you love food at all, if you're kind of into food porn, this is essential viewing. Plus, with all of the restrictions and travel, this is actually a really great way to do a little bit of vicarious journey. It takes some vicarious journeys. My verdict on this is that traveling, especially road trips, will test any relationship to the absolute limit. So if you survive it, then you definitely get the best friend seal of approval.
I'm not going to bury another Batman.
Another Batman? How many Batmans has he been burying?
That's it from us for this episode. If you have any recommendations about best friends, worst enemy movies, please be sure and comment below. If you would like to make any suggestions about what topics that you would like to challenge Jamie and I to do picks on, please email Kevin, our cameraman, at viva@scarecrow.com.
He's so much more than that, though.
He's our camera person, and he is the host of the illustrious, co-host of the illustrious Viva Physical Media, which all of you should be watching anyway.
He's probably just going to edit all that out.
Maybe that's the only piece I'm going to keep
on
in.
loop.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us this week for Art House to the Fart House. See you soon.